creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and of course, I am surrounded by the best and the brightest in the tabletop RPG community, and that's you guys out there. Thank you very much for joining me. This is the one and only show on the interwebs hosted by yours truly, where we come TriCast to your various streaming platforms. We do have beside me. You will see that the visual continuity of the show has changed a little bit. To one side of me, we have the YouTube chat, in which case you can participate there live, and on the other side of me, we have the Twitch chat, in which case you can participate live in that manner as well. Lastly, you can join our Discord server. Unfortunately, it is not. It will not and cannot be visually displayed. Basically, because if you would like to join either of those two platforms, you may do so. You can post pictures and web links and things of that nature. But of course, those type of things may violate certain copyright infringements and things of that nature. So won't be able to show those. But let's get into it. So this week, for those who do not know, the channel, we here like getting together with your friends around the gaming table. We like to talk about long form things in our tabletop RPG content. And I'm a huge proponent of exercising the creative muscle. And I apologize for this being a bit of an extended intro here. I apologize because I really wanted to do this little bit of a 10-minute thing so some of the you who cannot be part of the show can join in for like 10 minutes and get out of here. But I do have to do this little bit of a preamble. And that is that didn't have the show for the most part last week. There were some things that happened over the weekend, et cetera, et cetera. So just bear with me here because we like to talk here long form. So this week we're going to talk about paranoia and overreaction. Now, the reason we didn't have anything last week, and it's very difficult to see it behind me, is that had some family and friends over, and I've got a 3-bedroom house. We got 2 extra bedrooms, and no one sleeps in them. But ultimately, the room that this show is in is our entertainment room, and invariably, no one wants to sleep into the bedrooms. They want to sleep out here in front of the big TV and with all the geeky stuff surrounding them on the big giant L-shaped couch, and can't do a show with some 5 o'clock in the morning. They're like, "You're fine. Go ahead and air the show." And I'm like, "That's you don't understand. It's like taking a nap behind someone on live television. You can't do that at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning." So, but to get into the subject matter we're going to talk about today, I'm going to pull something a little bit far closer to home than normally we do on the show, especially live. So bear with me. Now I want to make this a little bit of a part in the beginning here. I don't mean to make light of anything, but I need to give you the context to where we are coming with this, the paranoia and overreaction. And we are a tabletop RPG channel, so you may have specific feelings about this, but we're not a political dissertation show. We are tabletop, but I need to let you know where it's coming from. So, recently, the media had, probably due to releasing documentation to the public from the civil service sector, a video was released of an Army lieutenant who was apprehended and pepper sprayed and in many ways assaulted by police in Virginia. And uh, I'm going to read you a little bit of something from military.com. It's titled FBI Joins Investigation of Traffic Stop Involving Black Army Officer. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a context as to, I saw some unsettling defense of the police officers involved. And I want to give you some context as to the Army officers' actions for those who may not be familiar with it. But anyway, During this traffic stop, the police followed the Army lieutenant, who's a black and Latino, saying that he was driving a car with tinted windows and had a tag in the car, but they could not see it, so it looked like the automobile had no tags, and decided to pull him over. And there's something that's taught to us very early in life. If you are African American here in the States, there are a number of behaviors that we are taught to do to protect ourselves and to protect the lives of the police officers if you're ever pulled over. And while some people who may not be part of the black and brown community may not understand this, it's a life-saving measure. And the three things that are absolutely positively reinforced in our heads as a kid, I don't want to say preteen, probably just double digits. You're getting to like 10, 11, 12 and older, is remain respectful, keep your hands visible at all times, and oh, you're fine, Cam. I see you. Cam, you're always welcome here, dude. Um, and so keep your hands visible, be respectful, remain in a safe location. Okay. Now, the safe location, let's go with the initial call for the traffic stop. Apparently, he drove about a minute further down the road to get to a well-lit area. And the reason for that is to indicate through your behavior, without speeding or weaving or anything, um, to remain to go in a place that is so public and well lit that you have no intention of trying to hide your intentions. Don't pull over to the alley. Sometimes you'll see police officers, they'll pull someone over on the side of the road, and the police officers will they will counter park their police car behind someone so you don't get hit. And so the intention is to pull into pull to a parking lot, pull into the biggest well lit area you can, because if you pull the police off the road, there's no danger of them being struck. That's the purpose of not stopping immediately, but pulling away from like a blind curve or from behind a truck or something of that nature. The second part of that is the always leave your hands visible. And like Deadman says, also never approach them on their firearm side. The Army officer was given conflicting instructions. And a lot of times what will happen is, like, the police might say something to me in the thing like, show me your hands, show me your driver's, license and registration. Or it'll say, show me your hands, get out the car, right? And we know, if you are someone who is trained in this as a citizen, that the minute your hands are not visible, they go below your waist, they go off of the dashboard, they leave the area of the window. When they can't see your hands, there's a danger in that. And when you add to it a jacked up police officer who's already got their weapon drawn, they're already upset. They're not given the circumstances. In their head, they've already set up a situation where there is danger involved and you don't know what's going on. You never, ever, ever make a sudden move. And that sudden move sometimes is pretty normal, right? Oh, take your seatbelt off. Oh, when you open your car door, you think about opening your car door from the inside. Oh, my license is in my back pocket, or it's in the glove compartment, or my registration is in the glove compartment, or something fell down and there's a drink spilling on the floor or something. It's like, no. You don't move your hands at all. And the last part is the respect. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, I didn't. Can you please explain to me what's going on? Because a lot of times, and maybe if you just answer the question, if someone said, "Hey, we pulled you over because," and then they fill in the blank, like you had something in your roof rack and it fell over, or your taillights out, or something like that. Sometimes that stuff can be easily explained. In this particular situation, it happened in. It came to light, although this happened back in December of 2020. I'm sure this came to public opinion. I mean, came to the public uh, because when you're a civil servant, those videos can be given to the public and for public perusal. That this was wrong. Now, a lot of people would. The part that got to me was I'm going to get to the tabletop RPG part. You just hear me out here. So the part that got to me was people were not understanding. Well, why didn't he just get out, or why didn't he just undo a seatbelt, or like when the officers were telling him to do something, why didn't he do it? And the reason is because we a reasonable, peaceful person that is black or brown, we want to double down on the instructions that we are given. So, um, if, like Deadman says, Tim Pool has gone over this several times as his father was a firefighter. Yeah, it's like you're asking me to get out the car. Yes. You do understand I need to move my hands to undo my seatbelt. Yes. We want to confirm the instruction. But if someone is screaming, stop, get out, let me see your hands, what are you doing? Blah, blah, back and forth. All that becomes is just noise. It's just audio noise. It's like instructional. It's the stay where you are, move over here. It's the pick that up, stop moving, stop. When you're a kid, your parents are chastising you. It's like, stop crying, clean up, you're bad, go to your room, stop that, sit down. And you're just like, wait, what instruction are you trying to give me? It's the, what are you still doing here? You need to follow instruction, but you're talking to me. Why would I leave you if you're literally raising your voice at me, giving me instructions? Why would I stop to do anything except listen to the person with the authority? So what does this have anything to do with tabletop RPGs? Okay. Um, from here on out, we're going to talk about paranoia and overreaction. Now, this is where we go away from the real life influence of this situation, and others like it, because this one happened to be caught on camera. And the fact that this gentleman was an officer in the military. uh, Hey, JP. The fact that this person was a military officer, the fact the person didn't raise their voice, the fact that they had their hands up the entire time, the fact that once they got into a brightly lit area, they said even from the from the body cams of the police officers that you could see the tag in the back of the car. Um, JP pops in Discord a literal image of me on the screen. Thank you. There, it looks pretty ridiculous. I do. If my head is like this big round brown spot in the middle, watching DBJ on the telly. What? That's really, you're gonna make my head that big, dude. So what does this have to do with tabletop RPGs? And it made me listen. I go in these big, giant, circular, creative spirals sometimes, and it made me think about the fact that you know what will happen and what has happened in the media is that there are people who are defending the police officers. It's very dangerous to be a police officer. Every car stop is dangerous. You don't know what's going on. There's tinted windows. The suspect didn't stop immediately. They drove on for a minute. So all of a sudden, there's this ramping up of tension. And in tabletop role-playing games, the player characters and the people in these worlds are often, very rarely is there a tabletop setting in which there's no dangers at all, right? There's danger around every corner. Who's there? What's going on? And to it's the from your point of view, whether you are the police officer, whether you're the gentleman driving down the street, um, Whether you all of these things. I'll get to your comment there in a minute, Cam. Dead man's like, it could have been worse. It could be on a 60+ inch TV. Yeah, my big old head. Yeah, but these dangers, it's like from the point of view of that person, you're working off of anecdotal evidence. How many times has this happened? What percentage chance is it that I'm going to be the victim of a dangerous thing? The police officer going through their heads, oh my God. Yeah, once again, am I going to be gunned down in the streets by somebody or whatever? What's going to happen? And the person driving the car, the gentleman, here's an army lieutenant. Hey, he's living in Virginia, which is literally the seat of our government. I mean, how many times these police officers seen someone in the military fatigues? I don't know, from every branch of the government. And he's driving down the road and the police lights are going on behind him. And he's like, oh shit. Okay. Okay. Well-lit area. Okay. There it is way up the road. Let me pull over there. Okay. Turn my phone on, start recording, hands visible, remain respectful at all times, doing what he thinks is the right thing to do. And you see it start to unravel, this overreaction to a thing. And I think that's where leaving the reality of what happened to go into our fantasy space and tabletop RPG games, where we have creatures that are shapeshifters and changers, corrupting influences from shapeshifting doppelgangers and evil hags and ghosts and things, possession and illusions and mind control and hypnotism. We have all these powers, and there's many mythological creatures that are out there that control and manipulate the senses and the mind. And can you imagine, one simple individual in a small village or town or something just so happens to have been hypnotized by a siren or something, or a harpy or whatever, comes back to town, and how the people will react to that. And I think there's a little space in there. And I think there's a way it's difficult to incorporate some of those monstrous entities in our world, but this paranoia and overreaction to it might be a great way to start to include them if you really wanted, instead of the random encounter roll. Okay, you turn the corner, you bump into a doppelganger, which is probably the worst way to do it. But Cameron says, I'm a white guy, but I've encountered angry cops. Yeah. They blast tons of contradictory instructions, and if there's more than one, it's even worse. Everything happens very fast and it's very disorienting. Can't imagine the added fear. And that's absolutely correct, right? Because the idea is, we as citizens, and I've gotten to talk plenty of times with my parents, it's like you want to step down that anger, that tension. You want to make every movement deliberate. You want to keep your voice low. You want to talk in very slow. If it takes I've had car stops and I've taken forever. And the police officer was like, no, you're fine. I just need to see your license and registration. And my hands were up and I was like, okay, officer, I'm going to take my one hand and I'm going to reach for my wallet. Do you understand that? The officer was just like, yeah, I understand. I said, I'm just letting you know that I'm going to move my hand very slowly. And I'm taking forever. And I think the officer was not annoyed, but was like, not, they didn't have their guns drawn. Let's put it that way, right? But when you're presented with somebody that's got like a firearm in their hand, you pretty much want to do everything they tell you to do without triggering their finger, right? Anyway, JP says, typically in a tabletop game, everything slows down with combat, but in real life, there's no roll for initiative. It's more like first to roll wins. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And JP says, it's way easier to pontificate and muse over how you're going to spend your 6 seconds over several minutes, much to the irritation of players such as me. Yeah, it's easy. We in role-playing games, we're like, oh, a round is 6 seconds. A lot of things happen in 6 seconds. Let's see. Let's search in YouTube and go into like MMA, 6-second knockouts, quickest knockouts you'll see in MMA from people who've trained for like months to jump into a ring prepared to fight. And then all of a sudden something, a swing, a kick, a punch, an elbow comes out of nowhere and boom, they're out. And these are people who are expecting to get hit If you're just an individual driving down the road and all of a sudden something happens. So I'm going to hard segue away from this because I wanted to let you know where my mindset was coming from. So I'm going to absolutely hard segue away from this. And much like the Salem witch trials here in the States, right? It's the what's the danger lurking around the corner? I mean, on one hand, we like to think of like, the heroes are out there stopping evil and they look around for evil and it's no big thing. But when the population knows there's a danger out there and there are individuals in your community that through good or bad might be labeled as part of that danger. Maybe it's that single lock of gray hair that happens to reside on the person who looked the old hag in the eye. Maybe it's the strange green flecks in the eyeballs of those who were hypnotized by an evil mage or something. Maybe it's the strange cold breeze that follows everyone who's been possessed by the ghosts of the Deathly Hollows or something. Whatever the case may be. What does the population think about that? I mean, do they become, are there like mob groups out there who are looking out for these people who just might be corrupted by some ancient influence or whatever? I mean, sure, the heroes are there to go after the wizard's tower, who's an evil necromancer, and the local constables or whatever are sending their people in with their pitchforks. And then afterwards, do the people just embrace their loved ones like, yay, you went with a torch and pitchfork and drove the evil wizard away? Or do they go, is there something inside you growing inside you now that you literally looked in the face of evil and we need to watch out for you? And of course this goes back to the controversy of like, where do orcs and dragonborn and drow elves exist in, dark elves exist in the world? Are they evil or are they not? And if they're not, what do the people, how is their culture perceived? And I think there's a space in there for us to be creative and to fill in that creative element. Dead Man says, actually, the best thing to do is to take out all your informational things like license, registration, insurance at the beginning of the encounter. I absolutely agree with you there, except most people don't think about it that way. I would, right? But then there's the issue of what's the, if the police are like, what are you doing moving around inside your car when we told you to stop and show your hands, right? Like if there's a loudspeaker telling you to do something, it's like, which one do you do first? Do you lean over and try to go into your back seat or your glove compartment or the overhead or into your back pocket, or you know what I mean? That's the issue. It doesn't, from a person's point of view who understands that the slightest misread could mean your death, reaching into your glove box is not necessarily the smartest thing, even though it's probably the better thing to do, right? I've heard of that thing. Yeah, yeah. We dead man's like, yeah, get a 30-second timer. There are. I don't know if that's a. I know you're being a little bit facetious there, dead man. I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do, but hell's yes. Many a DM has been like, fuck, like just take your action. Jesus, are we going to spend 30 minutes waiting for you to take a 6-second action? Right. But, at the same time, it's like, not everybody thinks in the same manner, the same way. It's kind of like we're not expected to be real swordsmen, even though I'm playing a character with a sword and a shield. And none of us expect to be wizards, even though, learning how to, I don't know, read Draconian or something like that, even though I'm playing a wizard. And none of us are expected to be charismatic, even though I'm playing a character with, a high charisma. So when my professional ranger that's 5th level is attempting to dual wield, taking out, goblinoids or something, yeah, my ranger's probably a whole lot better than I am at thinking about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So there's got to be some leeway, but I hear you. There's some analysis paralysis that happens with players, and you're rolling your eyes like, oh my god, like just look, as a DM, you're just like, I don't even want you to roll the dice now. I'm just going to give you the win if you just friggin' just act. I'm not trying to kill you. I'm trying to make it challenging. Just do something. Tesla says, back when I had a car, I had my registration insurance cards clipped to the sun visors so I wouldn't have to rummage through the glove box. Yeah, I do the same thing. I've got this, you have your license, registration, that information, and it's probably better to have it in your hand, like Deadman was saying, and actually get that information first at the beginning of the encounter. But I think let's just be real. If you see the video of that traffic stop with that army officer, that police officer wasn't really interested in that. That officer had already formulated a scenario in his mind that led to an encounter that involved violence and apprehension already, that no amount of calm talking and proper instruction was going to alleviate at all. If you take a look at that, weapons drawn, F you, when the army officer says, like, I'm afraid to get out my car, and the police officer's like, well, you need to be scared. It's like, well, okay, now I'm a citizen who hasn't done anything wrong, and you're literally telling me, you know what? In your car, out your car, you're in danger, and I'm the guy who's holding your life in your hands. There's a little bit of a difference. There's a huge difference to that. Gaster Two Soul says, "Well, I have the perfect enemy I've ever made for this episode, and it's in an up and coming TTRPG known as Spire of the Damned." Ooh, tell me more a little bit. Tell me more. JP's like, "Oh yeah, 30-second egg timers come out all the time." Yeah. And like Deadman says, several games use that rule, the egg timer rule. Yeah, I think I don't want to say that I do and don't like egg timer type of things, because the ticking, or you can get those little cheap hourglass sand timers. It's not an hour, but they come in a lot of board games and things like that. You can get them real cheap. Uh, they work as well, but I default to the 5% 95% rule, and that is, like, I like to know your players are like, give me 5% of what you're going to do. Like, I'm going to attack, I'm going to run, I'm going to dodge, I'm going to hide, cast a spell, I'm going to reprogram the computer, I'm going to sneak to the back. Like, give me the elevator pitch. Give me your one-liner, what you're going to do, and then we can go to the 95% of the details of what you're going to do. But like, if you're a wizard, I'm going to cast a spell I'm going to cast a spell at the enemy. Great. Okay, now I know exactly what you're going to do. Let's move on from there. Or I'm going to run around to the left, try to, go behind cover and sneak around behind them. Great. Okay, good. Thank you. And then we can start to round robin and go, okay, well, what are the details? What's your sneak attack? Well, do you have to make a stealth roll? We're going to make an athletics check. Yeah, JP. Yeah. JP puts the image of little sand timers. Yeah. And some of them are like pocket sized, all the way up to like very expensive ones made out of like brass and wood and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Mufa's like, just use your quick draw feat to get your ID at registration. Jeez. Yeah, it's a thing. Now, mind you, listen, let's understand that there are probably thousands of car stops that don't happen that way. And honestly, I'm like, for example, like I'm you guys know I'm a mailman. I'm a letter carrier here in the States, and the police I mean, I know the police, maybe not name wise, but I know all of them face to face. They know me, and I've never had a problem with them. Although some of the customers have called the cops on me, but whatever. But that being the case, these kind of car stops happen all the time, and nothing happens, right? So the percentage of bad to good is low. But my question to those who feel like my question would be, what percentage of these terrible car stops would you tolerate if they knew they were targeting you because of how you looked, right? The answer would probably be zero, even though you can't really control what people do. Gaster Tusol says, okay, so quick summary of the story. A plague has broken out within the Gothic steam-powered city known as the Spire, turning people into certain monsters. Monsters twisting their DNA into beasts of unimaginable horror. Sounds Cthulhian, Lovecraftian to me from that description. But anyway, I'm going to go on. Twisting their DNA into beasts of unimaginable horror. The players must now dive into the eldritch origins of this disease, spreading to everywhere else. Similar to Pirates of Dark Waters world, Deadman expresses. And it sounds like that. And when you have something like a disease, a virus, a corruption, maybe there's a mysterious force that moves through the city, whether it's like a ghostly power that goes into people's nightmares or something like that, in which the public doesn't understand how it's affecting people, but they know there's a real example of danger out there. Then unfortunately what you have are people policing themselves, and the paranoia and the overreaction of who's the evil person, i.e. going back to the Salem witch trials, right? Hey, it's a witch because if they float, they're a witch. Well, if you drown them, you just drowned an innocent individual in your society. But they're like, oh well, overreaction, right? And how many times have we seen in our present day people overreacting to things in very violent manners and destructive manners of all types, based on the anecdotal evidence they have before them, instead of like going like, what, my emotions are getting the best part of me, but let me calm down and see what the hell's going on, as opposed to latching on to our baser selves to alleviate the horrors that are around us. And that's a very animalistic thing, right? Most predators and animals out in the world are not curious by nature, because the act of not knowing something means there's a percentage chance there's a danger out there. You got to destroy that danger, or else you're dead out there in the wild. And so therefore there's a reason why you need to know what's around the corner and what's in your territory, and other animals that go into your territory that you've sprayed all the corners of your territory. You're like, listen, if you already smelled every tree I peed on, and you still came into my territory, you're probably a danger. And if you're not, you're either dangerous to me, or I'm gonna have to prove to you that I'm a danger to everything else in it. JP says, but but I'm not as good as my ranger at sword swinging. Oh yeah, well you sound even more surprised than your character right now. So you've got that down pat. What? Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Oh man. Cameron says, get an egg timer that clicks every second, set it to 30 minutes, then tell the table they have 30 minutes till something terrible happens. Ooh, that's a good idea. just put an egg timer, and like, you know what? You go in a dungeon, you could stay in this one room or keep moving, but guess what? Random encounter every 30 minutes. That's actually kind of fun. That's a good visual, much like the Jenga tower dread game, using the Jenga tower, or what's the other one, 10 candles, blowing out the candle as your like hit points, kind of. It's the visual representation, or maybe audio representation as well, of the tension that's building, of your players maybe moving through a place that's supposed to be very dangerous, in which case the 30 minutes at the table may not equate 30 minutes in the game, but it still gets across that same that same paranoia, that same back of the scratching at the back of the head that something's not right here. So, yeah. I'll get to you there in a minute, Gaster. Um, JP says paranoia is something you can use on a meta level against the players. For example, players may have spent the previous sessions fighting orcs or dragonborn, etc. And then in the next session, you have the civilized area be full of those creatures, and the players have to play a metagame of who will attack us. Yep, absolutely. And I think there's a way. Well, I'm a glass half full kind of person, and the I feel like the new the new our embrace of the fact that like hobgoblins and orcs and the evil creatures now are not born evil, that they are that we have a new outlook on our role playing experiences, and that the idea that it's not all black and white. But I still think there's a way for us to still embrace the old ways, and that it just so happens that maybe just in the meta of the past that people did think that way, they just don't think so anymore. But the case might be, yeah, sure, not every hobgoblin band is evil, but there are evil hobgoblin bands, right? So, like you said, you go to a place where there's like orcs and dragonborn, and the PCs have been assaulted on the roads by roving bands of orcs, and then they get to a town where they're just like welcomed inside, and the players are like, are they? Could they be just is this their new method of like um getting us to put our guard down before they try to put us in a big pot of stew, or are they really good? And then and I do agree with you, JP. Like, you could really play on that paranoia, especially if it's like um, maybe the band of evil orcs is an antithesis to the new group of orcs they meet in the civilized region or something. Or maybe the player characters misread a situation, or the orcs misread the player characters, right? Like the orcs are like, oh, we thought you were sent by the evil necromancer this whole time. We didn't mean to like really kill you. Now Gaster too. So, I'm gonna move this. There we go. All right, Gaster. Says, now then, on to the main antagonist entities that will be responsible for this plague. The many angled ones, beings of unimaginable shape and form, coming from a place known as the angles of Pathos. Ooh, Pathos, Ethos, and Logos. We're gonna have to talk about that one of these days. Maybe we might even do a week of that. Anyway, they, however, do not feast upon flesh, but can feast upon the memories of those it attacks. See, there you go with the paranoia, right? Yeah. Um, which then is medically all right, Kitty. Come on, because I can't. Listen, I love you, but you got to get down. Go take a nap. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my producer. Anyway, it's medically related to dementia or insanity, as slowly your memories are being taken by those parasitic horrors, which relates to the topic of, sorry, of today, paranoia and overreaction. And, imagining the defenders of your society, really, Kitty, of the defenders of your society suffering, or the wounds they suffer from their defense of your population. But if they start suffering from dementia and memory loss, then you're like, well, who wants to volunteer for that that job? And how do you cure that? I mean, in our real life, we have soldiers that come back from have always come back from war scarred, not just physically but mentally, by the horrors they see. And we've seen plenty of time in here with active shooter uh, things in the states where our honored military is suffering horribly from the things that they've seen and done in the military. Sorry, I'm going to have to move away from here in a minute because Kitty, Sophie, come on now. Okay, sorry about that. JP says, oh, I'm sorry. let's go back up to the beginning of that comment. JP says, a very simple setup and the subversion, something to undermine the player's ability to predict the future, instant paranoia. We see that a lot of times in creative writing or creative production, uh, books, television, short stories, movies, where it's you do it in sets of three. So an example would be you see a gun on a nightstand, and then later on in the story, the person, let's say is a cop, right? They wake up in the morning, they pull the gun, they open up the drawer, and there's the gun either on top or in the drawer of their nightstand. They put the gun on their belt, they go off to work. The second time they come home, you see them take the gun, there's the nightstand, they put the gun on it or they put it in the drawer, they leave. That's two times. The third time, bad guy breaks into their house, they have a fight, they flip over the bed, they go to the nightstand, they open up the drawer, they reach around there, and there's no gun. Right? It's the subversion of the thing, and it's usually done in threes. Usually, they say four is pretty bad. Another version of this was done in the Battle of the Bastards, in the sense of um, uh, Jon Snow when he in the Battle of the Bastards when I can't remember the family member that was running away from oh shit, what was his name that fired the arrow? It doesn't matter. Anyway, so Game of Thrones, Battle of the Bastards, two good guy side, bad guy side. One of their captured family members runs across the field of battle. Okay, and we see that the Ramses, Ramses, Jesus, whatever, doesn't matter. Takes an arrow, cocks the arrow, boom, fires the arrow, misses him. Second arrow, misses him. Third arrow gets shot. Okay, set of three, right? We're expecting. Third arrow misses. So we're thinking, okay, one, two, three, third arrow misses. We're already done. And then, boom, they meet up together. And just before Jon Snow goes to grab his family, boom, arrow goes through him, kills him, right? So they actually subverted the subversion, which is Ramsay Bolton. That's it, Ramsay Bolton. Thank you so much. My brain was just like, you can't smell it, but it was pretty much farting. Yeah, you're fine there, Gaster. Yeah, it was Ramsay against John. Yeah, Bolton against the snow, or yeah, technically. But that whole subversion also works really well to like make an NPC seem suspicious, but that just happens to be their behavior. The npc that's always like hiding their hands or looking away or having a conversation where everyone just like goes shh when the player characters come around, and it's like, what are they talking about? We see that at work, right? You walk into a room where everyone's having a conversation and everyone shuts up, and you're like, are they talking about me? What are they talking about? Why did they get quiet? What's wrong? Is there toilet paper stuck to my shoe? Is there a booger in my nose? What's going on? That kind of stuff. So happens all the time. Anyway, anyway, JP goes on to say, a very simple setup, subversion. Cam says, can't have a D&D talk about paranoia without someone bringing up a false hydra. So here, I'll bring it up ironically. A false hydra? I've never heard the false hydra thing. But yeah, there's so many, like a subversion would be a single hydra head comes out of a swamp. PCs think it's a serpent or a drake or a dragon, and then come to find out more heads start rising up or something and whatnot. Yeah, I'll get to your post in the Discord in a minute there, Tesla. JP says it doesn't have to be about race necessarily. It just has to be something the players have an assumption about. Like all people who wear gloves are in a cult. All people who say, of course, are blank. Mentioning a hidden phrase or conspiracy uh, whistle for secret societies, or even a particular individual trying to create a division between players. Absolutely. No, it doesn't have to be about race at all, right? It could be, like you said, it's a matter of like people who wear gloves or a particular color or a particular clothing style. It could be a language. If those who speak a certain language, it could be I mean, you could do so many things. religious iconography. It could be gender, age based. It may be profession based as well. It might even be geographical. People who live in a certain area are assumed to be a certain way. It may be geographical visitation wise. Oh, you have the red mud on your boots from this place. We all avoid that place. Didn't you see the signs that it's been, cordoned off, that it's quarantined? And someone's like, yeah, but it's a shorter distance to walk through the red mud. And they're like, oh, you went to the red mud area, right? I mean, it can be a number of those things. We do that. Hell, we do that today with people who are ex-convicts. Ex convicts are assumed to be a certain way, which is why, disclosing that you were an ex-con, that you had a felony charge or something like that to try to get a job, so you're assumed to be a certain way. And like I said, it's anecdotal evidence. It doesn't mean the evidence isn't true. It is just an assumption of the percentages in our minds is greater than the can often be greater than the percentage chance of the thing happening in reality. But having a percentage chance the thing is true makes the danger that much worse, right? Like, if someone told you that, and also it's about the immediacy, right? Like, if someone told you, oh, guess what? Every time you eat an orange, there's a 1% chance you'll die from a poisoned orange. I had to pick something random. And you go, well, that's a low chance unless you're eating oranges every day. You see a bunch of oranges on the table, and a lot of your coworkers are eating oranges, and they offer you an orange slice, and you're like, I'm not eating that. There's a 1% chance I'll die. And the coworker's like, I've been eating oranges all my life. And then, of course, you say, well, sure, but that's like playing Russian roulette. You don't, just because you win doesn't mean you get better at it, right? And so, eventually, a lot of times, paranoia is based on a thing where we embrace the fly sitting on the vanilla ice cream more than the vanilla ice cream in total, and then that creates that fear, and then that fear makes us paranoid, and then we start getting into the overreaction. Time to flush the vanilla ice cream down the drain because a fly landed on it, right? Um, uh, There's the False Hydra. False Hydra 5e. An epic fight you'll never remember. The False Hydra is a fan made homebrew monster that gained quite a bit of popularity for evil dungeon masters. This creepy bugger has been tossed around quite a bit with a bunch of different versions and iterations, but you can thank a guy named Goblin Punch for the original idea. In a small town, an aberration is quickly growing, feasting on the locals' flesh and memories while protected by it. And it's called the False Hydra. Why didn't I know this? Tesla Ranger says, really, anything can be a monster. The ceiling, a lurker. Yeah, those of you who don't know these creatures, just listen to this. The ceiling, a lurker. The floor, a trapper. That treasure chest against the wall, a common mimic. Common. The room the treasure chest is in, a greater mimic. Stalactites on the ceiling, piercers. Stalagmites on the floor, roper. Natural stone columns, uh, I'm going to pronounce it Abai-Nou. B-I-N-O-U. Boulders in the cave, a gallop der. Yep. Smooth 10-foot wide stone passage, the gullet of a tunnel terror. Creepers growing on the wall, assassin vine. Yep. Sheet of paper on the table is a pilum set. Pile of rags in the corner is a ragamuffin. Mm-hmm. Discarded clothing is a raiment. A patch of darkness is a shadow. Although, do they have a cloak on here? Yep, patch of darkness could be a shadow. Patch of wet stone is a gray ooze. Absolutely. Empty stretch of dungeon quarter might contain an invisible stalker, phantom fungus, or any other naturally invisible monsters. Anything resembling a statue made from any material could be a golem. Is it anything not listed above? Might be an animated object. Can you conclusively prove a given room is completely safe? Something could be lurking on the ethereal plane watching you. The friendly NPC who sent you on the quest could have been replaced by a doppelganger while you weren't looking. excuse me, possessed by a demon, or maybe they were a shape-shifted dragon the entire time. Even the bag of holding you got at the end of the adventure could really be a cursed bag of devouring, the mouth of an extra-dimensional creature that will try to eat you the next time you reach inside. Yeah, I'm surprised the cloaker didn't make it up. But I mean, you could go on and on and on. There's a bunch of Gaxian monsters in there. Yeah, the guy Gaxian monsters. Yeah, what's listen at the door? It's an earwig or earworm. A bunch of like strangely anti-adventuring monsters. Um, yeah, yeah. Cameron says false Hydra is a monster that makes people forget their victims. That's weird. I love it. I love it. I love it. Cameron says, give each player secret notes that say, don't tell anyone what this note says. Yeah, except for one player who you give a note to that says, beware the cruel deceiver. Yeah, I've done the hand people a note and wrote on a note says, I'm handing you this note just to make you seem uh you, to make it seem suspicious, and the person just like laughs at it like, yeah, okay. But a great way to do it, because let's be honest, right? One of the most difficult things in gaming when it comes to like paranoia and like deception and things is the doppelganger. Now, mind you, when I say the doppelganger, I'm including every illusionary shape-shifting monster you want to include in your game. Rakshasas, hags, fiends of all types, that shape-shifted dragons. And the reason why it's difficult to do it is because you we want to include them in the game. We want to allow as much information as possible for the players to maybe put the pieces together that they're there, but at the same time we don't want them to guess it at level 2 when we're doing like a 17 level adventure, right? Like we want we want to do it like a television or movie where if you were to put all the evidence together, you find out at the end, or you find out like, oh, the past 5 adventures, oh, wow, we didn't know the our patron was a silver dragon. We didn't know the old hag was the beautiful princess. We didn't know the doppelganger had replaced the king, right? But when we look back at it, we go, "Oh man, that evidence really did." It's a mystery, right? And it's difficult to do that. The other thing about the mystery is the minute it's revealed, especially if it's the Rakshasa, the doppelganger, the hag, the first thing is it's going to be beat ass time, right? We know the minute the beautiful princess is revealed as the hag, PC's sword drawn, spell casting. Ooh, there's my experience points. Go kill it, rather than trying to follow the trail of what's been on and what happened and such. Right. So that can be the difficult part, and also it's the gotcha. If the players never guess it, and then you reveal to them, I've been a doppelganger the whole time, it feels like a gotcha, and it can be very difficult to insert that. And I think the one way we can get around it is to show the show the side effects of the hidden figure that you have in your world without the hidden figure actually being there in front of the player characters. So things going missing, strange turns of phrases, the what JP said, where an assumption of something, you set up the assumption and then you flip the script on it. You let's say a community has a general greeting to the players. Bright suns, bright suns, bright suns is that's where it's spoken in the Disney World, Galaxy's Edge. Bright suns, everyone. And then all of a sudden they're greeted with a different phrase. Hey, good morning. You're like, bright suns? And that might be a thing, whether is that person a doppelganger? Why did they change their greeting? Did they change their greeting because the PCs were strangers and they know that strangers don't really react to bright suns? And you can start to throw in these little things where, like I said, things go missing, people are confused. Maybe the town guard is on guard for some reason, looking for something. Not the player characters, but oh, we think there's infiltrators in our town. Move out our way, strangers. And it's like, what's going on? I see your comment there, Cam. Anyway, Movacall. Hey, I didn't mean to ignore you. Movacall says, how to make paranoia against a monster? Keep saying, keep saying, are you sure? Whenever a player wants to do something. Yeah. I want to go down the hallway. Are you sure? Yes. You're sure you want to hit it with your sword? Yeah, it's attacking it. You're sure? Yeah, I'm going to roll to hit. Wait. Before you roll the dice, I just want to make sure. You're going to draw your sword and attack the monster. Should I change my mind? No. Just go ahead, roll the dice. That's it's up to you, but I just want to make sure you're going to go ahead and do it. That's kind of effed up, but I love it. A move call goes on to say, mimic that takes the place of the shady rogue in the corner of the tavern. Just sitting there in the corner. If somebody approaches the mysterious stranger, instead of gaining some dark backstory and convoluted quest, they spring the mimic's trap. That's funny. No one goes in a dark corner with the shady rogue with the dagger in the table. Yep, it's just a form. Yeah, Cam's like, now I'm imagining a mimic doing a passionate, inspiring, poetic rap. That's funny. I think the movie Brothers Grimm has quite a few paranoid aspects. Paranoia of magic, French military, well-placed paranoia of Lena Headey, and the Queen's paranoia of plague which doomed her. You know what? A lot of our brother, what are they called? Not anecdotes. They are. Oh, there's a category of children's fables, and I can't think of the descriptor of them, but there's a lot of paranoia of a lot of kids, a lot of dark things out in the woods, and the Pied Piper stories and things of that nature. Warnings about how avoiding dangers out there in the world recontextualized as these stories for children. A lot of the Greek and Roman uh, mythology is based around that. The moral of the stories. Yeah, dead man. The moral of the story. Be careful. Yeah, all the fairy tales and things. Yeah, a lot of them are very, very much like, don't touch that, don't go there. And then you got to make it as brutal and dangerous as possible. Some of those fairy tales are pretty damn dark. Anyway, Movacall says, then there is the mimic Venus flytrap world settings. Civilization living off the safety and bounty of the land, an evil ruler keeping populations low until the heroes overthrow him. The populace blooms until the capacity is reached and the plant closes up, growing its own food. The big bad tyrant was keeping them from reaching the right population to trigger it. Ooh, we've seen, I think, more in video games, but we've seen the evil tyrant doing the thing, and then the hero overthrows the evil tyrant only to discover the evil tyrant was doing the thing to protect society in the first place, just doing it in an evil tyranty. I made that up. It's going to be a real thing now. Being tyranty, doing the evil tyranty thing to protect humanity from another thing that was happening. It's the invasion of the body snatchers idea that anybody can be the bad guy, or zombie apocalypse. Let's go back to, that's a common thing I bring up, where a single bite turns that person from a trusted ally into a possible evil. And you could even make most of your character classes kind of like that. This concept where you're not a barbarian, classic Dungeons and Dragons, right? You're not a barbarian. You have barbarian attributes, or druidic, or whatever the case might be. You have these attributes, but we know that there are others who had those same attributes that might grow into something else. Like, for example, your barbarian might be related around lycanthropy, or your wizard might be related around corruption and fiendish influences. And so, character-wise, there's nothing changed on your character sheet, right? But the world that you live in, you understand that your wizard or your sorcerer or something, if they ever lose control, will become these other evil things in the world. Therefore, the population looks at you as if they are these other things. Like most, if not all, Dragonborn are the in your world could be the residuals of evil dragons in their reign over vast empires. Sure, your Dragonborn isn't, but you're aware that all these other Dragonborn are, or at least some tangentially related to the reign of the dragons. And so, yeah, sure, your Dragonborn might be a paladin, a gold dragon or something, but maybe there's a gold dragon that's pretty damn totalitarianistic in the world, and everyone's like, yeah, you're part of them, which is where we come to the, racial issue, if you wish, if you want, whatnot, or cultural issue, or something of that nature. Tesla says the cloaker is a monster that, when at rest, can resemble a large cloak hanging on the wall. As if that camouflage wasn't enough, it can manipulate shadows and sound to create illusions, including mirror images of itself, and make itself completely invisible, lull you into a helpless torpor, and unnerve you so badly that you could do nothing but cower in fear. All this before it actually attacks. Yeah, I think they went a little bit overboard with the cloaker. I'm a little bit disappointed in the cloaker. I think you could have made about 3 or 4 more creatures out of that. Not necessarily something you can wear, but I think they could have done something for that. Yeah, Cameron talks about, like, for the greater good villains, where there could be an evil tyrant of sorts might embrace the player characters might go, there's a big evil up on the hill. They go up on the hill, the evil tyrant exposes their story and says, listen, I need to let you know I'm not killing innocent people. Let me explain. Or maybe the heroes do kill the evil tyrant, and they realize that the evil tyrant actually has some way of sussing out, like, a secret invasion of, like, shape changers or doppelgangers or body snatchers or something. And now the player characters are now in a position of, oh shit, like, damn, we just killed the person who was literally trying to kill, was saving us from these invaders. And now that we just destroyed that network that was literally protecting us, even though we thought they were evil, now we have to be those people. Damn, what do we do? So that's a really good world building thing. I think we'll stick with that. We'll combine that with, like, Gaster's idea. I don't want to steal Gaster's Two Souls idea, but maybe we'll stick with that as well. Anyway, Movacall says tabletop RPG systems that grant more than just, hit point losses, like actual limb damage, infections, crippling damage that lingers for time until proper healing. Ooh, those kinds of systems make players really risk averse, and paranoid as a trap is no longer just a slowdown or inconvenience, but a chance of having to do the rest one-handed. And oftentimes, like, remember we talked about Death Spiral games when we talked about our hit points of Relic of the Past, and there's a good reason to have Death Spiral mechanics. I maybe calling them Death Spiral mechanics is pretty bad, but the Death Spiral mechanics basically says, like you said, if your character has to walk around with, like, one hand, one arm, an eye missing, or blinded, or stunned, or exhausted, and running out of your resources, I've got a broken rib, and then sure, they got the beat ass last combat, but now they're handicapped for the next combat. That could be really, really, paranoid inducing, especially if they see shadows around every corner, and the sword wielding, shield carrying hero is like, I can't. Listen, guys, I fought off 5 orcs before. I'm not going to be able to fight off 5 more orcs with a busted, limb or something like that. And that's a great way to to dangle the threat as a game master without the threat really happening. You know what I mean? But anyway, guys, thank you so much. By the way, I hope the new format is good for anyone. Just hope so. JP's like, what's that? What's this note on a tyrant's body? Anyone who kills me becomes the tyrant. I love that idea. I love that so much. But I love the idea of like, if you want to talk about subverting assumptions, that's a really great one to use. All right, guys out there, steal that idea. Anyway, tomorrow, of course, is Trope Tuesday. We'll continue with the talk. I apologize for being so... I didn't want to make it a Debbie Downer in the beginning of the show, but it was something that hit me over the weekend, and I was just like, I can't not talk about it, and I'd rather talk about the thing that's on my mind than to keep it inside or whatever. So, but by the way, all you guys are always invited. Thank you very much for tolerating that part of it, and everybody have a great day. Thank you so much for just being part of the show. It just means a lot to me for you guys just sticking around and things of that nature. So I really appreciate it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. And by the way, thank you so much as well. Everybody have a great one. I'll see you later. Bye. There's something going on with my computer. Thanks for watching.